everybody! It's Christmas time, so it's time for baking. I thought I would share a quick recipe with you for my nuts and bolts. So I've kind of already put a bunch of stuff together. The nice thing about the nuts and bolts is you can do whatever you want with it. Did I say I was VOChef Deb in case that didn't notice? Anyway, so you can put whatever you want with it. I like putting in pretzels. Bugles are always nice. They're always a big hit. People are always scrounging them out trying to get the best thing first. Life cereal or Chex. Chex is even better. I used Life this time, but Chex kind of puff out a little more, so I kind of like them a little bit better, so I would go for the Chex myself. Thing of Shreddies, thing of Cheerios. I used the multigrain this time just because I like the coloring. It's got different flavorings in it. So typically what you want to do is just grab your roaster pan and just fill one single layer of each item. I also have put in cheese nips, or in this case I use like the goldfish kind of stuff basically. You either get cheese nips or cheese bits and put them in. They're always gone first, so one box is never enough. So I get 2 boxes of the cheese nips, or goldfish, or what have you. Then I do about 3/4 of a bag, so again one single layer of the pretzels. Definitely a full bag of the bugles. The Life cereal, probably about a 3/4 of it for this big of a roasting pan. It's quite a big roasting pan. I make quite a lot and I use a lot of it. I take it to people's houses when I have to go there. It's really good. It's nice and cheap to make. And it's something that's easy to transport and usually enough of a hit. Shreddies about the same thing. So I'm probably using, for a small box, I'm using about 3/4 of the cereal, which is about 1 layer on the roasting pan. And then as well, peanuts. Now you can use roasted peanuts or raw peanuts. It's totally up to you. You want at least 2 cups of peanuts, I would suggest. I don't always do peanuts. I was going to this year, but I don't really have any, so I didn't really do them. I have a little bit, but not enough, so I'm not doing them this year. So pretty simple. Get all your dry ingredients together first. Then we're going to put your seasonings together. This particular recipe I absolutely love. I got it from one of my favorite cookbooks, which is called Favorite Recipes of Bean Fate, which is a little tiny town in Saskatchewan, Canada. So those are my favorite recipe books, the ones that are from the little small towns, because it's everybody's favorites. So what you're going to do is put in half a cup of margarine. Now, I actually use about the exact same amount that it calls for in this, but I use a bigger roasting pan than I think normally is supposed to be used. So in this case, I'll go a little bit more than half a cup. Obviously, you can use your measuring cups here. So I will go with a heaping amount, and then I'll just add just a little bit of extra on each ingredient list. So in this case, you don't need butter. Margarine's just fine. If you're fussy about that, obviously butter is just fine. So now I've got pretty much a level. If I scrape that out, it'd be level. I'm going to add a little bit more to make it heaping, so it's just a little bit more butter than it's calling for. It's not quite 1/8 of a cup, maybe 1/16 of a cup more. And so now I'm going to consider that on each ingredient that I've added here. So a half cup of margarine. I'm going to put 2½ teaspoons of seasoning salt. And seasoning salt's obviously where a lot of your spices are, so you have to be careful not to go over too much on that stuff. So I wouldn't go quite a ½ teaspoon more, but almost. So probably a 1/4 teaspoon more. Of course, I haven't pulled up my measuring spoon. So, in finding them, so I will take so it's 2½ teaspoons of seasoning salts. I like buying a big thing of it. I go through enough of it. I'm going to put it directly into the unmelted butter right now. You can do this differently. You can melt the butter first if you want. Now, typically it'd be 2½. So instead of a half, I'm going to go for like 3/4. So hopefully you can see that okay, instead of just being the half. And then that will give me just a little bit more seasoning. I almost cheated that a bit, put a little bit back. A little bit more seasoning than it would be for just a regular roasting pot. And then what I think the big trick is here is 3 tablespoons, so a little bit more than that. I'll probably go not 3½, but 3¼ tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. I've had to say that way too many. I did that with my pumpkin seeds too. I still don't know how to say it right. I still haven't had to voice it in a script. Actually, I did have to voice it in a script one time, but I just kind of looked it up that day and got it right that day. And now I don't know today what the right pronunciation is. So I want 3 tablespoons of this, plus a little bit extra. This is where a lot of that beautiful seasoning comes in my opinion, is from the Worcestershire sauce. If you talk to someone from England, they have a whole nother way of pronouncing it, so I just don't even bother getting it right. Now with this mixture, I am going to clean up my mess here because I spilled a little bit on my cookbook. Try and stay on it, try and keep all your ingredients on the table with you, read your stuff through. See, I didn't do that already. We're supposed to preheat the oven to 250. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I have failed. So you want to do that obviously right away so that your oven is at the right temperature. You're actually going to cook this for quite a long time. We're going to cook this for 1 full hour, and we're going to stir it every 15 minutes. And when we sprinkle this mixture on, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is put this mixture in the microwave. Butter margarine doesn't take long to melt, and you've got a bunch of seasoning stuff in there too, so that will do a little bit of explosions in your microwave. So get yourself a microwavable bowl, put a napkin over top of it. At least that's what I do with anything that I put in the microwave. Obviously you can get splash guards. I'm going to put it on for about 55 seconds. That's about all I need. I don't need it to be hot. I just need it to be melted. And usually a cup of butter takes about 50-55 seconds to completely melt. So margarine being a little less of a water-based product, more water-based, it might take a little less. So obviously you can keep an eye on it. You're going to stir that up, and then what we're going to do is just a little layer at a time. It's kind of interesting because when you put the ingredients on, it actually soaks right into it. And I always worried like, ooh, there's going to be one spot that's full of that seasoning, but it'll be too seasoned. But actually it spreads out really nice. You just got to keep stirring. Layer, stir, layer, stir. That's a trick to popcorn too. Layer of butter, stir. Layer of butter, stir. One more layer of butter, stir. And you're golden. A little bit of salt on top. You're awesome. Okay, so we only have 10 seconds left here on the margarine. It's melted down pretty much enough for me to use it, I'm sure. 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The nuts and bolts are good because if you don't put the peanuts in it, you don't have to worry about too many allergy issues. Most people love unhealthy cereal. No one said this was healthy. So this is melted down now. Hopefully you can see that, okay? And now I'm just going to stir that up. Some of the margarine is still a little bit not melted yet, but it'll melt as I stir it. You want to mix this up really nice so that it's an even mixture, because you're going to be pouring it all over. You're going to use the entire thing, which is, you know, almost 2 cups of liquid here that I'm going to pour over this dry stuff. And again, just like with popcorn, you just do a little bit at a time and it works wonderfully. So you want to make sure all that seasoning's mixed up. That's about what it should look like when it's done. I'm going to pour just one little thin strand, a tablespoon at a time. And I don't have to rush it. I used to think I did, but I don't. I typically make this every year. I think it's smart to get really creative with it. So if you have some other creative ideas that you put in your nuts and bolts that no one else does, please send them to me. You can send it to me at deb@debsvoice.com. And I would love to hear some more creative ideas of what to put in my nuts and bolts. I don't always get overly creative. So I put a spoonful layer over the whole thing. Now I'm going to give it a nice stir. Again, you want to have a nice big pot. That's why you want to make sure not to overfill your pot. I have done that enough times. I'm just going to stir it all under once, basically, because I will stir this several times. Being careful using my hands so that it doesn't get all over the place, because my spouse is OCD about floors. But on baking day, it doesn't matter. I bake for like 16 hours on baking day. It takes me 2 days. I'm going to make my turtles too, so I hope you look for that recipe. That one's a killer. And some of the recipes take 2 days to make. This one's nice and quick. I usually do this one first. And then when I store it, obviously airtight containers work really well, but really Ziploc bags work excellent. Freezer Ziploc bags, I stored in about 2 or 3 of those. It takes up about 2 or 3 of them. And that is how, there, look at it, it preheated already. I was cooking some bacon today, so my oven was nice and warm already. So that told me I'm ready. So there's another layer, and just keep doing the same thing over and over. Now, when I put it in the oven, I'm going to do the same thing every 15 minutes, not basting it. Obviously, I'm not putting any more mixture on it, more seasonings or liquid, but I do need to keep stirring it so that it bakes properly. You want that oil, the butter, the margarine, the good stuff. You want that stuff to give it a nice crispy coating so that it absorbs into all of it. I'm going to stir it again because as time sits, what happens is the seasoning mixtures separate. So you want to make sure that you've got it all together all the time. Keep stirring so that it's evenly proportioned. The one thing I notice about people cooking is people aren't fussy about it, so recipes never turn out the same. Well, it's because you're not fussy about it. I'm fussy about how I cook. I'm fussy that everything's done exactly right. Not that there's such a thing. And I work hard to make everything similar. So I work hard for even distribution of seasoning and spices on everything. Because if I got too much on one area and not on the other, then, you know, someone bites into, let's say popcorn, for example, you bite into one popcorn kernel, it's got lots of butter, and then the other one doesn't. I'm a perfectionist. I like to have a little bite on everything, so that's important for me. So again, same process here. I've got about 3 or 4 more layers of this to do. And then I can shove it in the oven, baking it for 1 hour. Set the timer for every 15 minutes. So, you know, you put a bake time on the oven if you have the right oven. You can set it for a bake time of 1 hour, and then you can set the timer for 15 minutes. Otherwise, use your phone. You know, just set it on for 15 minutes and give you an alarm. Your computer has alarms too as well. Notice I'm still doing a very thin layer of this. Don't rush this stuff. Don't get in a hurry and like, oh God, I gotta get it on right now, get it in. Because that's what's gonna make you have unevenly proportioned flavoring, and it won't hit every single nugget here. Oh, I spilled on the floor, Wayne. You have to watch the turtle one because I'm gonna have Wayne make the turtles this year. And Wayne doesn't even know how to open the fridge, so it should be interesting to watch my fiance try and make turtles with me. And it's a big process here. I wouldn't even have him try to do this part. Mind you, he's OCD, so he might enjoy kind of anally putting this stuff on. Making sure it's evenly proportioned. But I tend to be an even proportion person. Even when I eat my food, I tend to, like if I have fruit salad, I love making homemade fruit salad. So I like to have a little bite of everything. So I have to have a bite of the apple and the orange and the grape and the cherry and the raspberry and the banana and whatever else. I have to have it all in one bite. Then it tastes even to me. Not everybody's as fussy as I am. But I do cook good, and one of the reasons I cook good is because I'm so fussy. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate it when people come in and taste all my stuff while I'm doing it or grab my ingredients because I'm OCD about it. I'm fussy about how much I've measured. And to me, everything's perfectly measured, so you can't mess with it. So keep your hands off my stuff. But that's, of course, what the family does anyway because they love to bug me. So obviously, I survive it. Okay, this is my last layer here. Almost done, folks. Almost done. Quick recipe turned into a long one. But I've got it all nice and evenly proportioned. It's got a really nice, now I can take the bowl and just do a little sprinkle again. I wouldn't recommend doing the bowl from the start because you will overspill. There, it's all done. Every single drop is put on there. Give it a 1 more stir and into the oven it goes. There's not much to show you when it comes out. It looks the exact same. It's just a little bit more cooked. The seasoning is cooked into it. The butter is cooked into it now. And it absorbs into it. You know, it's like an oil. It kind of deep fries in its own way. No one said it's healthy, but it's darn tasty. And, you know, stir carefully so you're not breaking up all your ingredients. You know, the bugles are quite large and I guess for the most part attractive to see. So you want to not try and be too aggressive with it. That's about it. There's your nuts and bolts. 1 hour later, you're done. Merry Christmas, everybody. Until next time, if you guys have any questions for me or want to talk VO or even recipes for that matter, send me an email at deb@debsvoice.com. VOChef Deb, over and out. Take care. Happy holidays. I guess Puggle said so too.